In this edition of Southern Newsweek, a wind farm proposal fails to gain the support of the City Council. We take a closer look at the decision. Upcoming changes to some of the city's bus routes and fares upset bus users. We'll find out why. And local researchers test their quantum physics theories using a mini version of the Large Hadron Collider. Kia ora, I'm Holly Buchanan. An application to build a wind farm at Waitati has been declined by the Dunedin City Council. The Blueskin Resilient Communities Trust had proposed building 3 wind turbines at a cost of around $5 million on Porteous Hill. But Hearing Commissioner Colin Weatherall says there were simply too many issues with the plan that couldn't be mitigated.
More than 7 years of planning could be for nothing, with the Dunedin City Council's Hearings Committee turning down the Blueskin Resilient Communities Trust's wind farm application. Committee Chair Colin Weatherall says after months of deliberation, in the end, the decision was clear.
It's a weighing of the evidence, and the RMA is very clear about the effects matters. And in my view, the effects on the immediate and the neighbours in Pride Road are significant and dominant to towers, particularly one. And I've indicated that the dominance is greater than I believe is fair and reasonable. And in that regard, there were no offers of mitigation. There's really no way that you mitigate a 90-metre tower at about 400 odd metres in your view. So in my view, it's declined.
The Trust's application to build a wind farm on Porteous Hill near Warrington received more than 150 submissions. Weatherall, who is the Independent Hearings Commissioner, says he didn't make the decision lightly after spending many hours deliberating.
We started in May, and I've done a significant number of hours on the way through, heard 60, 70 submitters, read over 1,000 pages of evidence, and finally released a decision today.
Within minutes of the decision becoming public, the Green Party, whose co-leader Materia Ture lives in Waitati, issued a statement. Greens energy spokesman Gareth Hughes says it's ridiculous that in 2016 the RMA won't allow climate change impacts to be considered when a community wants to create their own clean local power. The Blueskin Resilient Communities Trust has 15 working days to appeal the decision, and Trust member Jacinta Ruru says the Trust will see what the community wants before making the decision on whether to appeal. Daryl Baser, 39, Dunedin News.
Those behind the now world-renowned Dunedin Study are gearing up for another exciting development. All going to plan, their 44-year-old study will have a new home by the end of this year. And it's a process the public will be able to watch, with plans for a live webcam to be set up to document the build.
Let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. The Dunedin Multidisciplinary Health and Development Study is set to get a new home, with a $2.6 million building project getting underway. Cook Brothers Construction has secured the contract, and Dunedin Study Director Richie Polton is excited for what they'll produce.
After many decades in really makeshift surrounds, the university's done a great thing and invested in a very nice customised building for our needs, and that will be hopefully available to move in end of the year, and we're all very excited about it.
Polton hopes the building will be available for them to move into at the end of this year. That's a time frame project manager Phil Chatfield says contractors are set to deliver on.
It is a very challenging time frame. However, the weather at the moment is being kind, so if we continue in this way, we're confident that it can be achieved.
Additional to walking past the actual site, members of the public will be able to watch the progress via a webcam that's being set up at Toitu. Visitor Experience Manager Kirsty Glengarry says that shouldn't be too far away.
We expect to have the live footage ready in a couple of months. Let me say that just to be sure, because Gigatown's being installed, so it'll just depend how long that takes.
The now 44-year trial was only meant to run for 5 years, but it has now become Polton's life's work, which he believes will now outlast him.
I mean, I'll be pushing up daisies, and the study will still be going on. I mean, people's lives continue these days well into the 80s, so that's another 40 odd years away. And much beyond that I really can't conceive, because as I say, I won't be around to witness all that.
The exhibition will remain on display at Toitu until early next year. After that, there's talk of taking it on tour to other New Zealand centres, or possibly overseas. Daryl Baser, 39, Dunedin News.
The Otago Regional Council is making major changes to the city's bus system with fare increases and new routes. A free zone transfer scheme is also being rolled out to alleviate some of the cost to bus users. But there's concern that the changes may negatively impact those with mobility issues.
Checking out the changes. Bus routes around the city are set to change mid-next month as part of an Otago Regional Council initiative to improve the service in Dunedin. But Tainui resident Paul Allen is concerned with the lack of public consultation on the issue.
Well, I would have thought it's communicating with people who are catching the buses, actually letting the bus drivers actually interact with the people using them, even if that's letting people know that there is changes coming would have been a really beneficial thing to do.
Allen believes residents in certain areas will be impacted more than others by the changes. He's identified one site in particular, on McAndrew Road, that's set to change, which he says will negatively affect some bus users.
You've got to get off on Anderson's Bay Road and walk down all the way down to Aurora without any cover from any form of weather or elements and things like that. And that's going to be a serious problem for people, which I know, who have personal health conditions, they have mobility issues, and all sorts of other things. The only other option is catching two buses.
Allen says he's spoken to the Go Bus company and is hoping to raise his concerns with the Otago Regional Council in coming weeks. He says the changes haven't been well thought through.
It seems to be for convenience of traffic rather than convenience of clients.
Otago Regional Council Support Services Manager Jared Collings was unavailable for comment on the issue today. The changes to bus routes and fares will come into effect on August 15th. Daryl Baser, 39, Dunedin News.
And Jared Collings has since advised the changes have been on the Otago Regional Council website since 2014 and the public were consulted. A local man has just returned from a prestigious international photography competition in London. The 25-year-old, who lives with Down syndrome, took away second equal in the My Perspective Awards. But it was meeting a certain celebrity that really left him speechless.
Meeting a hero of his. Dunedin photographer Carlos Bigman has just returned from the My Perspective photography competition in London. While he knew he was in line for an award, he says he was overwhelmed when he received the joint second place from the patron of the Down Syndrome Association, Dame Judi Dench.
I am quite a privileged person to have that kind of award that I received from Dame Judi Dench with her hands, and when I go to the stage, I say thank you to her.
Bigman is the first recipient of the Stephen Thomas Award for International Photography, named after a photographer who passed away last year. He says it was an honour to receive the award and to meet with the late photographer's family.
And they were speaking a little bit of Stephen Thomas and his life, and then when Stephen's mother called my name to receive the award, it was like it is for real.
He has some simple words of advice for anyone who may be chasing their passion but losing confidence.
Never stop doing what you love. Keep on persevering, keep on doing what you really love, keep on doing the things that you really want. Never stop.
Bigman says being acknowledged for his photography is an amazing feeling, but admits he regrets not giving Dame Judi Dench a hug. He's now back on home soil, ready to continue with his photographic career. Daryl Baser, 39, Dunedin News.
Researchers at the University of Otago are deliberately smashing ultra-cold atoms into each other to prove a common principle of quantum physics. The team has just published the results of their latest experiment in a prestigious science journal, and those involved say they're proud to be in a team that is producing groundbreaking work.
Experimenting with lasers. A team of people within this humble physics lab at the University of Otago are punching well above their weight internationally. Recently, PhD student Ryan Thomas ran an experiment to prove or disprove the Pauli exclusion principle. The principle states that if you cool lasers down to an extremely low temperature, you can trap particles and then smash them into each other.
And so what we do is basically we trap the laser beams in a horizontal, we call it a waveguide, basically a horizontal laser beam that's oriented horizontally, so the atoms can't move up or sideways.
He says from there it's all about controlling the matter.
And then we also further trap it using two beams that come up vertically, so now that they're basically trapped in 3 dimensions, and by steering the vertical beams, we can move them around in this waveguide. And then what we do is we take a single cloud and we split it apart, and then we accelerate them together and let go and watch what happens.
Associate Professor Niels Kiergaard says while the experiments are tightly controlled and follow the Pauli principle, he admits there are random elements at play.
We do actually, for some conditions, see some violation. And this is not because this Pauli principle breaks down, but because we get some higher order processes. So because we have this rather pristine system and we see deviations from this no sidestepping rule, where you get this dark band and you get some population into this dark band, we can use this as a very sensitive measure of tracking these higher order processes.
Thomas says it is not like creating nuclear energy, and there are no more hazards than in any other laboratories using lasers and electricity. Kiergaard is pleased his group and their Little Hadron Collider are among the top academics studying ultra-cold physics anywhere in the world. Daryl Baser, 39, Dunedin News.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, a 140-year-old brotherhood is having a celebration by looking at the past and taking on some modern activities. And the International Science Festival gets underway with the help of some local school pupils. Welcome back. The Christian Brothers are marking 140 years since their arrival in Dunedin. More than 100 past and present members gathered in the city to celebrate and reminisce about the past. But it wasn't all about looking back, with some modern activities also on the agenda.
140 years of the Christian Brothers schooling education in New Zealand is being celebrated over the next few days. The group was founded in Ireland in 1802 by Edmund Ignatius Rice in response to the needs of the poor and oppressed children of his nation. The Brotherhood has had a big impact on boys' education in New Zealand, and its roots in Dunedin stretch back to Kavanagh College, formerly known as St Joseph's.
It's good to pay tribute to the brothers who have done so much for so many people, and I attribute my calling in life to what I experienced, and farewell or pray for the repose of the soul of those brothers and teachers and all the ex-pupils.
Donaldson, a devout man, is the last remaining Christian brother out of the 299 who taught in Dunedin and Oamaru. He says he's excited for the weekend's festivities, with a large number set to attend.
Tonight is the opening night get-together, and there'll be over 100 here. Good time. They're coming from various parts of the country.
As part of the 3-day celebrations, Donaldson has planned a guided tour of Kavanagh College, followed by watching the premier rugby match between Dunedin and Pirates, who will fight for the Larry Salmon Memorial Trophy.
Yeah, it'll be a good game. The Pirates have a pretty good pack of forwards. I think they're missing good prop, and Craig Milne has been called over to help the Highlanders in Argentina. Speaking of the Highlanders, I've had a few apologies for tonight. Would you believe it? There are about 7 or 8 going over to Australia at this time of holiday, and a couple of my friends down south were going to come, but they're going to Argentina to see the Highlanders play.
In recent times, the focus of the group has shifted towards helping disadvantaged people in the Third World. Donaldson still carries on the organisation's long legacy in the Dunedin community, despite retiring from his role as a prison chaplain. And he's looking forward to celebrating the work done by the brothers over the past 140 years. Johnny Appleby, 39, Dunedin News.
Local secondary school students are getting a taste of life in the construction industry. They've toured some of the city's trade-based businesses as part of a nationwide campaign, and it's all in an effort to showcase post-study opportunities.
More than 1,000 hand-picked students are spending the day visiting construction-related workplaces around the country. It's part of the Building and Construction Industry Training Organisation's second annual tour. The event helps introduce students to the opportunities available in the industry, while also showcasing some of the innovations taking place.
It gives them a real purpose as to they can see what's out there, and it's really good for them to have the hands-on experience as well and just have a go, see if it's something they're interested in, and it gives them a purpose for what they're doing.
The program allows students who may not necessarily thrive in a typical learning environment see what they may be able to accomplish working with their hands.
Yeah, it's alright at maths and stuff, but I'd like prefer to do the hands-on stuff rather than the office, but then again, there's need both things to do the job, so yeah.
The tour also helps guide a path for school leavers, so those who decide they want to start an apprenticeship can be confident they won't struggle to get work.
We've been talking to a few of the employers that have been through Gateway, and they're keen for a number of our boys to take on apprenticeships next year. So it's really promising, and it's really good to get out and about and meet some different employers as well and make those connections in the community.
The tour is giving students critical insight into the industry and hopefully helping pave the way for some potential future leaders in the New Zealand construction industry. Johnny Appleby, 39, Dunedin News.
Dunedin school pupils have helped launch the city's International Science Festival for another year. The students gathered at Forsyth Bar Stadium for a fun-filled day of experiments, and that was just the start of the action-packed program.
For the love of science, more than 1,000 local school children are taking a break from the classroom to get stuck into learning. They are taking part in a large-scale science experiment, but like all good tests, it's not all going to plan. But just as class was about to be dismissed,
what happened there? Yeah, it's a bit cold. Dunedin winter. Takes a bit longer than it should do.
the experiment is the biggest science class demonstration in all of Australasia. It's the first event of many planned for the city's International Science Festival, and director Chris Green is pleased to see the kids getting into the topic.
I think it's just, once again, science is just an incredible part of our life, and it's about showcasing to them that science is more than just what we see on a video or in the classroom. There's so many different ways that we can learn about science, you know, and these kids turning into neurons and different things, it's just another way in which they can learn something new, and they're not going to forget what they've been doing today.
The main idea of the experiment is to demonstrate on a large scale how the brain works and responds to everyday life.
What we are demonstrating today as part of our big ginormous science class is how sleep can be important for the removal of waste products that accumulate in the brain during the day through normal brain activity.
It's a clear hit with the children taking part, with many lessons that won't be forgot.
It was really interesting on how the brain works and how we send messages.
He talked about how the brain works a little bit, so that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was nice to see all the science behind it being demonstrated in such an effective way.
The motto of this year's International Science Festival is to be curious, something these guys are certainly doing. Henry McMullen, 39, Dunedin News.
And just ahead on Southern Newsweek, a national competition has kicked off, drawing hundreds of hopeful secondary students to Dunedin. And the scientists of tomorrow get some hands-on experience at Dunedin's International Science Festival. Welcome back. Hundreds of secondary school students have been chasing sporting glory at a national competition. The students travelled from near and far for the 4-day multi-sport event held this year in Dunedin. But it's not just the usual games on offer.
balls going every which way. More than 300 secondary school students from throughout New Zealand are in Dunedin taking part in the annual Southern Area Schools sports competitions. Event coordinator Kate Anderson says while Otago is not the biggest region in the organisation, it regularly punches above its weight.
We're the smallest region out of 4 regions throughout New Zealand, and our region's only made up of 6 schools. So there's only 6 schools that are actually running this tournament. When you compete with the other regions, they have up to like 22 schools within their region they can select from and help organise their turn.
Teams have come from the far north of the North Island, as well as from the deep south of Te Waiponamu. Anderson admits it hasn't taken too long to put the multi-sport event together, with everyone involved pitching in.
A lot of it you're relying on the regional sports directors and organisations for referees and selectors, and that's the hard thing, bringing that together because they're busy people as well. The rest of it all just sort of falls into place with programs and support.
The week-long tournament kicked off with a haka from each area, as well as an address by Dunedin Mayor Dave Cull. Teams are competing in a range of sports, including football, rugby, basketball and golf. There's also a lesser-known Māori sport on offer.
Okay, Kiriarahi is a traditional Maori sport. It's a mixture of sort of dodgeball, rugby, ripper, a bit of touch. It's very exciting. It's a sport that we want to promote down here in the south. So with the help of my friends from Central North Island, this year we're hosting this code, and we're going to really try and promote it because it's a very exciting game.
Anyone wanting to catch some of the nation's up-and-coming sports stars are encouraged to come along to the indoor events at the Edgar Centre, or rugby, football and kihorahi at Bayfield Park. The tournament runs until Thursday afternoon. Daryl Baser, 39, Dunedin News.
Local kids are using their school holidays to explore science without the usual classroom restrictions. They've been taking part in a University of Otago-led expo as part of the city's International Science Festival, and it's giving them a taste of several scientific disciplines through fun, hands-on activities.
Taking a hands-on approach. To coincide with the city's International Science Festival, the University of Otago is staging their own mini version, showcasing a raft of scientific topics. One of the event's coordinators, Rose Newburn, says it's all about getting the public engaged with science.
So every time there's an international science festival, the university puts on an expo, most often here in the St David's Lecture Theatre complex, of a whole bunch of different departments doing what they do best, which is talking about the really cool stuff that they research and the tools that they use to explain the science they do.
Several of the university's science departments have put on displays, including live experiments and even an augmented reality sandbox. It's designed to show all that science entails in an exciting and accessible way.
It's really important to get everyone to see the value of science, but also to understand that science is involved in everything that we do. So there are people talking about food, we all do food, and there are people talking about geology and the land that we live on and earthquake risks and things like that.
She says people can often think of science as being too complicated, but events like this show it can be fun and inspiring.
There's a lot of science that's very, very relevant to everyone's life, and sometimes people think that science is kind of weird and strange and maybe hard to understand, but this science is stuff that we all know and do all the time.
Newburn says it's great to see so many kids keen to engage with all these scientific activities on offer. For some, it might even spark a lifelong interest. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
And that's all for this edition of Southern Newsweek. Remember to check us out on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, or you can keep up with the Dunedin News via our website dunedintv.co.nz. I'm Holly Buchanan, thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.